Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Alrighty. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
Indeed. Not live and in person this time. Damn it. Anyway. Today we're doing a review of a book that's... I don't know, it's got kind of a weird, like, cult level following or status, I guess, in Wonder Woman canon. Not like continuity canon, but like literature style canon. And that is The Legend of Wonder Woman. This is a 12-issue series from 2016, 2015 maybe?
2015.
2015. Yeah. I read this as it was coming out in singles. It was a digital first series before that. And it's just something that like I remember really enjoying as it was coming out. And I hadn't had the chance to go back and read it all as a completed thing, so I wanted to do that, and I thought it'd be just an interesting thing to talk about. Because in my opinion, this is like a Wonder Woman movie script in a weird way. It's like a DC Universe setup kind of thing. Like, you could see this as... If Wonder Woman was a more popular character, you could see this as like the replacement for Man of Steel, to like begin the DC universe on film or something like that. It's just an interesting little read. 12 issues, nothing too substantial, but certainly not a mini. I don't know. What did you think of this, Alfie?
Yeah, so I'd heard of this for a while as I'm recommended reading for Wonder Woman, and sadly, like most good Wonder Woman stories, it's just the origin.
Yep.
But when I got down and read this, it very much stuck with me, and like it was taking its time. And again, it's not necessarily a long read. The pages are very packed with dialogue and how the character speaks, especially under Themyscira. It's just something that it takes time to get all the information and stuff like this. That they want you to pay attention to the characters and stuff like that. And the vibe that gave me very much kind of the premise is it's treating Wonder Woman as a legend, and you're seeing every single step of her journey get at least a little bit of attention to it. And I thought that was an interesting take, and a character that fits that style of being part of the Trinity and obviously the ties to mythology and stuff. So I really, really like this for that, and I think the other strong bit about this is I think this did probably the best job of anything I've read, quite honestly, of like making Wonder Woman's supporting cast shine and be really great and fantastic. Only other thing about this book that didn't necessarily click for me is Diana herself.
Oh no.
but I think everyone around her is like top tier. Like, this is like best Hippolyta's ever been. This is the best Etta's ever been in leaps and bounds. This has got a really good voice for Steve Trevor. It's got a really good, it's got an interesting take on the Amazons that does the hard thing of making them have flaws without making them, like, warrior nutcases. Like, it goes into the layers and the different people of Amazons and making them flawed and stuff. Like you say, we deal with larger DC Universe things, but we still keep this as a period piece, and we still keep this set in World War II, which I think is a very strong setting for Wonder Woman's debut, to be in that war specifically. So there's a lot of good stuff going on with this book. There's some stuff I'm not too keen on, but we can get into it. But overall, I did enjoy this read quite a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do think that this is the best Etta Candy. I love the way Etta Candy is written here. She is just an absolute riot, and is just super fun. The Holiday Girls really do need to make a bigger comeback in like DC proper or something. They're too much fun. I'm tired of like proto-military Etta Candy and all that shit. It's not as fun as just like she's just got such an energy in this. I love her to death. And it's super fun. The Steve take I think is pretty good. I guess I kind of, you kind of threw me a little bit, but I guess thinking on it, I kind of do see where you're coming from, that like Diana doesn't really hit in this because she's like, she's certainly the main character, but she's almost like not the main focus. A lot of this is just like stuff going on around her in a way,
Yeah, that would be, I guess, to just get it out the front straight away. That would be my largest critique of this book, is this is very much a book that the whole way through is people telling Diana what she's going to do, and then her big climactic super moment at the end is someone else telling her, no, that this is what you're supposed to do, but now she agrees to it, and I'm just like, come on, guys. you could have just had a be independent and make some choices of her own. Because again, it's not like there's nothing in this that's like that, but the thing early on that made me realize, like, oh, this is kind of a red flag, and it didn't fix itself past this point, was take Diana choosing to save Trevor and venture out into the world as kind of thing, kind of like the impetus of like her big choice, her kind of moment of like breaking free from the Amazons, and it's her trainer who tells her to do it, and I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a cardinal like misstep. That hurts the book, but I don't think it ruins it, but it means it's like inherently from that alone kind of, okay, so this can't be the definitive Wonder Woman origin, because you remove our ultimate moment of immediate agency like straight away, and then we don't have that come back in a big way, like, oh, now she makes the choice. It's like, no, and people continue to tell her to make the choices. Etta makes the stuff for her, the Gaia at the end makes the stuff for her, like Hippolyta tells her stuff to do, like this and this. And this is a book that's dealing with destiny and kind of being followed on a path, so that is relevant. I just didn't think it lined up particularly well for Diana as being a force for change, that she's never the person who makes the change herself.
I don't know if that's 100% true. I definitely think you're right that there's like a through line with it. It's kind of a similar problem to like what Man of Steel has going for it, funny enough. Though I do think she gets a pretty definitive moment of choice that's certainly influenced, but not like directly told for her what to do, and that's the moment where she denies Zeus. Like, yeah. Her mentor's soul is there, and she tells her, like, be careful. Don't just agree right away. There's a cost to these things, but it's ultimately Diana that rejects Zeus, and I think that's a very important detail in this. Also, particularly for the time it was coming out, 2015. So when it had been written, it was like the big thing that was still canon, of course, was the Zeus birth from New 52. Now that's debatably canon. So that rejection of Zeus, I feel, is a pretty big moment. It's an interesting problem because I think a lot of superhero stuff has this where other people kind of set them on a path one way or another. Man of Steel, again, is the biggest comparison that comes to mind. But, like, I think that's almost like a symptom of a writer trying to, like, justify why this character is the way they are. And they kind of just end up guiding the character through the mentor people or through other characters to these decisions in a way that is intended to feel natural, but can kind of rob them of some of that agency.
Right.
The other thing that comes to mind is like Spider-Man Far From Home.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of those things where it's not specific to this book, or it's not like this. It's not done considerably worse than other things I've seen. Like, again, it doesn't hurt my overall enjoyment of the thing, like, an extent where I wouldn't recommend this to someone or anyone. But it is one of those aspects where I'm getting into a lot of the talk about Wonder Woman, getting into a lot of the things that we're seeing about Wonder Woman, but I think the choice to have all of these characters delivering this through dialogue, through like these expositions to talk about Wonder Woman and stuff like that, is what would normally be saved to kind of like an omniscient narrator talking about this is Diana making the choice to do it, now has to be delivered by a character to say that. And then that means rather than like a moment where you'd normally like have the stand, like the Amazing Fantasy 15, right, where you have the narrator say, and a legend is born, Spider-Man, and there must always be great responsibility, right? This book's format and how it's delivered means that always has to be done through dialogue. So now you have to do the Raimi thing where like a character has to tell Wonder Woman the message that would normally be the thing. And again, it's just, for Wonder Woman specifically, as a character who is so self-motivated and is such a independent figure, specifically, like even more so than a lot of other comic book characters, it stands out more. So I think that's one of the things for me that held it back. But outside of, because I do actually like this book, so I want to talk about some good stuff. Outside of that, though, I did really like how we managed to focus so much on Hippolyta and her relationship with Diana as a mother, and the struggle she has as a mother, and like the backstory we give to Hippolyta here, I think is very interesting, of her wanting the child so badly and having the grief of it. And we do the clay origin, but in this it's not even sculpted. She just collapses on the ground, and then the earth itself resonates so much with her turmoil. I'm like, okay, I kind of love that. That's kind of like that feels big. The clay sculpting origin is big and mythologic, but this feels like even more so. That this feels like that kind of almost biblical event of just like the sorrow reaching through the ground and the earth itself. So all of that I thought with Hippolyta was really strong. I love how she's like portrayed as an agent of Zeus, and she fucking comes down and she's like in Super Saiyan below, and like she's fucking illuminated. It's like Hippolyta in this book fucking slaps for me. I loved how she was portrayed in this. She's very sympathetic, she's very powerful, she's very strong, but she's never portrayed as like, it's so easy to make her like a bitch. It's so easy to make her like insane or like a monster or too passive. But I think this book goes really close to the line of like, she just really, really wanted to be a mom so badly, and now she's scared of losing that. And like the idea we go into here of like, Diana at first is just a mortal, and Hippolyta's biggest goal then is like, I need to make her immortal, so she needs to get the favor of the gods. Because it's like, I've been given this gift of a child, but now I have the curse of seeing it grow old and die eventually. And I can do nothing to stop it. It's like, oh, that hits so well. I love the mother-daughter stuff in this with Diana and Hippolyta. So that was probably the strongest thing of this whole book for me, was their relationship. I really liked. Yeah,
I like Hippolyta in this quite a bit. I think my preference still leans toward the Earth 1 version, just a little bit, but the amount you get into Hippolyta's head and comprehend and understand her motivations in this does hit really, really well. The amount of sorrow that she goes through, the idea that she betrayed her people to have a kid, it's one of those things that I quite like. And it's interesting because it's like, it takes one of the ideas that people have cited as kind of a problem for Paradise Island, and it both uses it and then and skirts it in another way. So it was interesting to have only select Amazons are immortal, the queen among them, and the Amazon society is mortal and just is like gifted. They're gifted the ability to birth randomly almost, or they give like an exposition, but it's not that important. So like one of the things that's talked about is, yeah, the idea of like the island of only women is as like this liberation thing is great, but then you're taking away part of the journey of womanhood, which is to become a mother. And so to play with that idea and like, yes, they can still do that, but Hippolyta is denied it for her immortality, and so she gets to have a daughter, but it's under the most unbelievable circumstances. And then because not everyone is immortal, including Diana, just the like intense anxiety that creates is so good. That scene with God, I can never get these fucking names. The scene with her mentor when they like really confront each other. It's like, our queen betrayed us in search of a child, and now she has one. And I look at you, and I know you will grow old, and you will die, and I fear she will find a way to follow you. And that's just so painful. It's a very, very well written scene. I really, really did like how they really thought through and like kind of did a deep dive into the implications of the dynamic they've created here.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think this did really well, and kind of can respect it because I wouldn't do it. With the specifically the Amazonians having that like only a chosen few of them are mortal, and the rest of them are just kind of living out on this paradise island. I wouldn't do that choice because I personally would lead more to like the Earth One thing, where like they've just all of them are granted that, and Diana is the only one who grew up as a child, and they all kind of acted as a mother to her, kind of thing. But I don't necessarily even think that's like better or like, oh, they did this wrong. I think it's a really interesting story to tell that, because if you're a writer and what Themyscira is needs to be tailored to your take on Wonder Woman. So if you're doing Wonder Woman specifically as a tale of mother and daughter and the pains of that, then yes, giving everyone else on Themyscira that ability makes that arc work better. So it's fine to change canon and to change things and to do your own take like that, and it's in service of your story. So I think it worked really, really well for this specific take on Wonder Woman, this specific thing, and it's a cool, unique little touch. Like I love the idea of like the chosen Amazons all have different like tribes and different you'll get the priestesses of Ares and the priestess of Hades and stuff like that. I think is really, really neat. And they are this version of the Amazons are much more in service to all of the gods rather than just Hera and like the female gods. It's just really, really interesting to do a version of Wonder Woman's story that is still playing for those familiar beats, but is twisting it in new ways and adding to it and kind of not afraid to kind of play with the toys. And I feel like without doing it in a way that so many other Wonder Woman origin retellings do, where it's like, it's not trying to fix anything. This is not self-conscious about being a Wonder Woman story. This is not trying to prepare her for a brave new era. It's just a writer giving their take, and that's really refreshing to read.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really helps it is, particularly with DC, the characters in this era, in World War II, just hit different. You know, it just has a great flavor to it, to put the characters back in the time in which they were created. You know.
Especially, I think, in terms of like the dialogue, gives it a great contrast from when we go from how the Themyscira and Amazons talk, and it's this very flowy, almost Shakespearean style dialogue with like, I do not know, however I wish that this shall forth, like that kind of thing. And then we hit at a Candy, and she's like, bam, bam, pow, pow, like it's a completely different rhythm to it. And even when Steve washes up, Steve's kind of rambly, and he's kind of trying to make bad jokes, and he's kind of fooling around, but he's very earnest in this. And it's really funny to me that this effectively they really just make Steve Rogers in this one, which I kind of love. I kind of, if you're doing World War II era Steve specifically, fuck it, just make him Captain America. just lead into it. If you're doing modern day Steve, yeah, give him a bit more of that kind of edge and kind of toxic masculinity to go over. If you're doing like that period piece, kind of the golden era Wonder Woman stuff, I do love that they just kind of made like the ultimate nice, kind of wholesome Captain America Steve here. Was really fun to read.
Yeah, it's super fun. I love it. Like, I think one of my favorite scenes with Steve and Diana in this is when we kind of cut to them after they've been alone for a while, and he's like realizes that he's been instructing her on how to fly an airplane. And it's just like he becomes self-aware of it, and it's like, oh, you're probably so bored. It's like, no, I found it very instructional. I love that for him. It's so good. I think the breakout character for me is still Etta. Etta is just perfect in this. That moment where she turns around and sees the billboard with her face and the hair melting cream just killed me. She is so hilarious in this. She's so much fun. And they really don't shy away from like what she was created to be, which is this, very like non-traditionally beautiful woman, and to be, kind of a trailblazer in a number of ways. She's just she's the original Queen Bee, man. She's a fashion designer, singer, makeup queen, farm girl. Like she does it all.
They do the thing in this, which is kind of what I'm always asking them to do with Jimmy Olsen. Is they go with the premise, okay, this is Wonder Woman's best friend, and she's not an Amazon, she's not a fake, this is who it is. Make that believable. Who would Wonder Woman look at and be like, oh, they're so cool, I love being around them, they're so much fun just to hang out with? And you get this version of Air Candy, where she is just as much of a Wonder Woman, if not more, than Diana, to where, because in the scenes with Air, I don't mind Diana taking a backseat, because it's refreshing. It gives her that person that she can just kind of watch and her like let her guard around about and just kind of have fun with her best friend kind of thing, which is so rare to see. Healthy female friendships in comic books a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. It's even if they're like romantic rivals or anything like that, they're just bros, they're just buds.
Just gals being pals.
Gals being pals. But it's but it's one of those things where you get to have this like bundle of joy and stuff, and like the scene when she's like making her costume and she's like,
which has probably my favorite line in the entire book. Why is Wonder Woman so difficult to figure out? You're supposed to be an icon to Allied troops, a beacon of hope. You stand for America, yes, but also the rest of the world. You strive for truth and justice. I love how out of context that is. It's almost like the like effort of writing Wonder Woman well, because we've talked about this. She is a very difficult character to do, because it's like that Star Trek thing of you don't really want to show her having like, you don't want to make her too human, you don't want to make her too flawed, because the whole point of her is she's supposed to be a beacon of like perfection. She's supposed to be like this ideal, even more so than even Superman is. And so it's just like to write her to do anything with Wonder Woman, it's so easy to see where you can go wrong. And I really thought that was like a funny little meta moment for the book, because she's like, the panel even has Etta like, she's got her eyes closed, but she's like just dead on, so it's almost she's talking just directly to the audience at that point. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really strong. So yeah, everything with Etta in this, like, what was really good. Something I want to talk about, because this is kind of a thing that as the book goes on gets more and more prominent. I want your take on. What did you think of this introducing a lot of DC Universe stuff as it went on?
I liked it. Again, it felt a lot like what you would see with like if you were trying to do one of those movies that's like setting up the universe or just introducing in the universe. Again, it felt a lot. It felt like an MCU movie in a way, where you just get like those Phase 1 MCU movies, where like you just get little moments where like a thing pops up or whatever. Because like you got Perry White introduced into this, you got Jonathan Kent, I should say, gets a cameo here. Alfred Pennyworth gets a cameo. They set up a villain for the second volume that doesn't look like it'll ever happen. They even set up fucking Green Lantern lore in this one. I thought that was really fun to just see all the other DC stuff show up.
As soon as I got to that part of what the final main villain of is like, oh, Whose dick did Ian suck to have the big fucking epic Wonder Woman be a fucking new take on a Green Lantern like connection? Like, you couldn't make this shit up, man. She's like, oh.
In fact, someone did, Alfie. Someone did make this shit up.
It's like, oh, come the fuck on. It was cool, but I was just, I got to that part, I was just like, yeah, no wonder Ian wanted to talk about this thing. Jesus Christ.
I mean, weren't you happy? You got 2 Superman references here.
The one I like the Perry stuff. I think the Perry stuff was really well done. I like Perry's talk with Diana. I like seeing him as a young reporter and being frustrated and wanting to make his own thing. I thought that was really strong. Jonathan Kent thing, too much, didn't need it. The one that actively I thought they should have done look out the butt was the Alfred one. The Alfred one was like, come the fuck on. that was like the, oh, you're getting too ahead of yourself, guys. You're not. They did the thing everything that doesn't get a sequel did, where it sets up a billion different plot threads, and then none of them will ever get paid off. It's like the Alfred being and Diana's little Cockney fitter performing kid pal is like, no, you've gone too far. You had your third, you got your little things in, but pull it back a little bit, guys. It's getting a bit distracting. So that was, again, it didn't ruin the book or anything for me, but that was the one when if I was the editor, I'd been like, come on, let's tone it down.
They went to Iron Man 2? They went to Iron Man 2?
Yeah, there was the MCU thing where they're like, they have to put in a bajillion references. And they're fun. Okay, let's... Picking up page space now is like, oh, come on, Alfred, really? Like, it's just too much, His fucking Jor-El was gonna show up at some point. Like, you know, like, it was a bit much.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, it's funny, because like I said, I reviewed this while it was coming out. And, funny enough, one of the team on it, I think Ray Dillon, the co-writer / artist? I'm not sure what Ray Dillon is. Inks, colors, and letters. Okay, is what Ray Dillon did. I'm pretty sure it was Ray Dillon. Was commenting on the videos, my comic reviews, as I was reading this. And I get to the end and I'm like, oh, let me share my headcanon. You know, if the writer of this book wants to use this, because you've been leaving comments on the video that, hey. But one of my headcanons has always been that Steve Trevor and Hal Jordan were wingmen, and the accident that made Steve Trevor's plane crash is Hal Jordan getting taken away by Abenstar's ring. I love that idea so much. And so it's kind of funny that, like, this starts to do some of that blending Green Lantern stuff with Wonder Woman, and just other characters and stuff. I adore things like that just happening. So it was super fun to see that, like, the big bad was a manhunter, but not just like your typical little robot guys, like a full-on fucking kaiju mech thing. That's going to go off and destroy the whole world. I thought that was a really cool final big bad.
Yeah, and honestly, it was like probably the most intimidating I've ever seen the Manhunters look or like act. Like, it's just one Manhunter and it's like this huge deal. I think they really kind of play that up more than any Green Lantern story I've seen with Love. Normally it's just legion of those guys getting marked, but this one Manhunter.
It's robots. Robots are so lovely to be able to be as inconsistent with them as you can.
It's true. It really is true. It's quite literally built different. Yeah. What did you think about the art for this book?
I do really, really like the drawing style. The art style, I think, looks amazing. This will be interesting because I know you're colorblind, so I'm not sure how much it stood out to you or not. I really like almost everything that's done with this color-wise. The thing that absolutely drives me crazy is Diana's skin tone. Bugs the shit out of me in this book. Like, I can never not notice it. Like, it's fine on the cover, but then as you keep going through the book, she just looks orange. She looks like she spray tanned in Jersey for too long.
No, it didn't stand out to me on that end. Probably because of exactly what you were saying, the colorblindness. I guess for me with the coloring though, the thing that maybe took me out of it a little bit on that end is I can kind of see why this artist was like on a digital first book, because it feels very webcomic DeviantArt fan style, like which again, that's how the level I'm at. So I'm not trying to be like an asshole about it, like thing, but like it didn't wow me, and there were parts of it with the coloring and stuff where I was just kind of like, know what brush you used for this, and I could see it, and you could have blended this better. Like it seemed more on that scale for me. So I don't even know if that's a critique. I guess it's just it was interesting to see a book published by DC look like that, because normally it's a higher quality standard for the coloring, especially. Sort of the colorist or something was different on this, but again, I thought the art was nice. The artwork that really popped off for me when I thought it was at its best was when they were doing those very kind of trippy sequences in the heckin' mindscapes.
You and your mindscapes.
But like when we get to Gaia and we're just like talking about the universe, and then Pegasus Orion comes in, and it just looks fucking incredible, and the colors really pop there when we're in this kind of dreamlike world. That all looked great. It's when we're just being with the characters, we're using a lot of excessive blush, everyone's skin tones and stuff with the average and the shading and stuff. It's where for a lot of the times I was reading, it's just kind of like gave me like a fan comic vibe. It didn't necessarily feel DC high level OGN like quality to that thing. And again, digital first series, there are different expectations for it, but that was something that stood out to me, that I think the script was better than the art that it got.
I don't know, like digital first I don't think is like a particular blemish on them. I think it's just a different marketing strategy. They're trying to try to get, you know, more in front of people in a different way. I don't think it's necessarily something that like, oh, the lesser quality stuff is going to be digital first, because I mean fucking the digital first Harley Quinn series started off with a Sejic story. So, but I don't know. I think I see what you're saying, but I think that's just a style that's becoming more popular as the digital web comic art style is just starting to transition off the web, as, you know, the people who've been doing it for years now are starting to break into industry. I think it's just becoming a style shift, a change, in the same way that you saw like kind of the manga influence happen in comics in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I don't know if I 100% agree with you on that. I think it's just a different take. As far as you can kind of tell what brush of this is and that, I mean, I think that might just be, you know, the artist's curse of being a little overly familiar with technique and such. Because I didn't really think any of that stuff stood out to me personally. Again, the only thing for me that I have negative to say about this art-wise is just the choice made for Diana's skin tones. There's moments where she's like, I think it's worse when she's not in the Wonder Woman outfits or anything. There's moments where she's in like those house dresses and she's just walking around. And I understand they're trying to give her like a darker skin tone so she doesn't just look white, but just the warmth they're trying to attach to her skin just looks so frickin' orange that she almost looks kind of like a... Honestly, that's the only comparison I have for it. She looks like she went to Jersey and got a really long spray tan. Is what has always stuck with me about this book. I remember people complained about Jezebel Jet in Grant Morrison's Batman, that like the artist made her look like Tamaranian or something. I kind of had that same vibe here. That's the only negative I had art-wise. I really do like the expressions in this. I think are pretty good. I'm just flipping through it and I'm looking at the scene where Diana and Etta go to the movies together, and anything with Wonder Woman and food is always hilarious to me. So it's just, you know, Etta's just talking because that's what she does, and you got like Diana trying popcorn for the first time. She's got like such a blank expression for the first 3 panels as she has one kernel of popcorn, and then the lights go out and the next panel is her just shoveling in her fucking mouth. It's so good to me. But there's a lot of bits like that are just really good expressions and stuff. Just flipping through, Diana going to the army office to get recruited, and she like kind of tells the guy off. He's like, oh well, Gladys loves working for me as my secretary, don't you, Gladys? And just looks over and she's got such a just resting bitch face kind of grin on. And there's just a lot of stuff like that I think is really good. Expression work is something that I think a lot of artists have a little bit of trouble with, so I was pretty impressed by that. Then you get some really cool, really epic splashes. One thing I want to use this transition and talk about is I like that the first time we really see her in action as like the proto Wonder Woman thing against the zombies, and she uses the lasso in like that cool fucking corkscrew motion. That's so good.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, I really, really like that splash page. That was super cool. And that kind of transitions me to the other thing I want to talk about here is this is like a move that I think it's really a basic move, but it's smart and kind of underrated in its basicness, which is you want to show the coolness of your superhero, just put them up against something where like the moral implications don't really matter. So usually Nazis make great cannon fodder, but dead Nazis, that's fantastic. Dead Nazis and a giant robot, I am here for it, man.
Yeah, it's great, and I along with that, the idea that we managed to we set up at first that maybe this Diana's going to use weapons or a sword and stuff, but then we have her go towards the lasso more naturally, and then really lean into that as that being all she needs. To where we have her master making a joke about it, like, you can still maybe a little mace. Do you want to take a little bit? That's really good. That's really endearing because it makes it very natural in that we address the elephant in the room that everyone else on Themyscira is using the sword. We acknowledge it. We show her with it. We show why that doesn't work. We show that why that doesn't fit her and why she should become something more, something that transcends even the other Amazons. She is a Wonder Woman. She's not just an Amazon, which I think gets missed a lot in modern stories, where they try and justify why she uses the sword by just using, oh, she's a warrior. It's like, no, she comes from a warrior people. She's more than them. She is specifically special as Wonder Woman, in the same way that Bruce Wayne isn't just a Gothamite and Superman isn't just a Kryptonian. They are an exceptional example that transcends that, and so they don't just use the tools of cruelty because they're better than that. They're ideal to strive for, kind of thing. I thought that was really, really strong. The idea of letting Wonder Woman, you tell me, because I'm not necessarily as familiar with it, but I think I've seen this before at least once or twice, of Wonder Woman's powers specifically coming from the items she's given, at least at first, until you get that big final moment at the end. How do you feel about that?
It's something I don't mind. I think that it's a very Greek thing, and it helps like differentiate her and gets away from some of the like, again, weird eugenics-y stuff of the Amazons are like this purebred warrior race or whatever of super women. I kind of do like the idea of the items granting her power, because it's straight out of Greek myth. That's what's his name, Perseus. He goes and he goes on a quest and he gets like the sandals of Hermes and the invisible helmet of Hades and this and the head of Medusa and yada yada yada. I like that as just a storytelling device, and I like how they kind of have their cake and eat it too, and giving her the items and then taking them away and giving her kind of that like third act moment of choice thing where she's like debating on if this is the life she really wants, and she's kind of given that chance of, well, you could just walk away from it, you could just live a normal life. I don't know how much that choice would have held up for her, given that she would have died along with the rest of the world if she didn't go on to continue being Wonder Woman, but the option does at least flirt with her there in the moment, and she makes her choice well before those consequences become fully apparent. But I do like the way that they give her the items, and then they take the items' power away to show like how petty the gods are, and then they give her powers exceeding those items, and those are hers now, gifted to her by Mother Gaia's like last act of power. I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that was all really strong as well. Again, like you said, it makes her more unique. It differentiates it from being like a specifically blood thing or anything like that. And you get a cool scene out with it when Etta tries them on, and Etta gets to fly for a little bit. So stuff like that I just thought was interesting, because again, there's a lot of things in this where I can't tell specifically if they're inventions for the book itself, or they're just deep pulls, or a little bit of both.
Yeah, no, I mean that's something that's been with her before. Is that she has enchanted items. I kind of like the idea that she has enchanted items on top of already busted superpowers, just because why not?
Yeah, why not go hard with it?
Yeah, it's fun. So I think it works really well for her. I think it's a pretty good thing. And there's always been some level of connection between Diana's power and her items. Mostly it's focused on the lasso and the bracelets. But like even the tiara is like magical because she does the whole boomerang thing with it, and the earrings have had powers associated with them in the past. I did like that Etta's just wearing Wonder Woman's earrings when we first meet her. I thought that was pretty good. So I don't know. I kind of go either way with it. Just depends on what you're doing, and I think they knew what they were doing with it here, and it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any other things about this that you want to go over?
Well, damn.
Because that's the thing with this book, it's 12 issues, so it's not exactly short, but it is also meant to. It's not necessarily this big, massive statement on Wonder Woman, much as it is, like you kind of said, is like effectively a storyboard and screenplay for a MCU Wonder Woman movie. And it's fun, and it's got deeper moments, it's got strong elements, but a lot of the scenes that you go through are pretty self-explanatory, and we don't just want to make the whole thing just us telling the jokes from the book.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, did you think that this should have gotten a sequel, or do you think that it wasn't quite strong enough for one?
No, I think it should have, yeah, because I think this could have only gotten better, quite honestly. I feel like as an origin singular piece, the introductions of all these extra DCE universe things, and the take on Diana being more passive as she tries to find her destiny, those are all issues. And even the art, I think, was getting better and better as it went on. Like the last few issues, I think I've got no issue with whatsoever. I think they look gorgeous. I think this was a series which was creators kind of finding their voice for they had all this pitch for the Wonder Woman world. They had the Etta voice, they had the Hippolyta, they had what they were going to do with the gods, they had the mythology, they had the designs, and maybe they hadn't quite got Diana just yet, which is fair because she's hard to write. She's got a very unique way, but they in terms of making her an individual character, so we're just going to focus on all the stuff we're strong with and just build it up, and bring in maybe some ideas for the DC universe that we've got a unique take for. And you do a sequel, and you have Cheetah and like this Alfred, and maybe the Justice League or International. Who knows what you do next? Maybe do some flash forwards. What does Etta look like when she's getting older, and Diana has to go through the same thing as her mother, where her best friend's getting older and she's dying, and Diana's not getting anything from it. What do you do with a Steve like that? Like, because we end World War II at the end of this, so we enter kind of an unprecedented territory in Wonder Woman stories where we've done the origin period piece, but now there's more stuff to fill in during that kind of blank period.
What if we skip forward to like the 80s, and there's like a Donald Trump type and maybe like a magical stone?
You know what? throw some non-consensual body snatching sex, and I'm in. That sounds like a rip-roaring time, my good fellow. Yeah. So there's some ideas there that I think, quite honestly, maybe were intended to be like, just hold on with us now, and when we get some more, we'll be able to really like bring the two. I think this, if we're doing the superhero movie origin example, I think the sequel to this could have been its Dark Knight if this was the Batman Begins.
Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of potential here. There was, like I said, this kind of has a bit of a cult following, in a way, among Wonder Woman circles, because it's just such a like well-regarded book, and the fact that it was denied a sequel, when it was clearly setting one up, and it was, relatively successful as the digital first. The issue sales weren't much of anything, but not much of anything DC puts out. Issue sales tend to be very good. I know they brought the artist back for some pieces every so often, like some variant covers and stuff, because it's got that level of like appeal to it. And like even when it didn't succeed, I think there was like a Kickstarter, or like a what's the word I want? Not survey, poll, petition. There we go. To get it a sequel at one point that they were really striving for. And it's unfortunate that nothing ever did come of it. Because I do think that there's quite a bit of good stuff here. I think this is quite well done, all things considered. The stuff that it doesn't do great, it's like not so bad that it makes you want to stop, there's just small little pitfalls here and there, but a really good story overall.
Yeah, that's what I feel of as well. I think this is a great introduction for Wonder Woman. I think specifically something that hasn't been mentioned, I think this is a great introduction for young Wonder Woman fans, like young girls. I think this is probably the Wonder Woman book I would give to them, because this is the tone is dealing with some darker subject matter, and we get some kind of stuff with the zombies and stuff, but it doesn't feel like it's ever getting into the murk or the brutality of stuff that you could, like, this is a Wonder Woman story that has no mention of rape from Hercules or anything like that. This is a Wonder, so you can't do Earth 1 for instance of that. This is one of those stories that I think is kind of an all ages kind of Wonder Woman story, which is pretty important to have, because those that are still really good and still enjoyable and not like directly marketed to like younger people, like say like the Wayne and Family Adventure stuff, where it's just meant to be like a Teen Titans Go style thing, which again, still a good show, but you know what the target demographic is. This feels much more akin to something like Superman Smashes the Klan, where you can give it to a child, if they're like 10, 9 years old or whatever, and they'd be able to have a really good Wonder Woman story out of there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that it has going for it, because, me, I love Earth 1. It's one of my favorite versions of the character, but it is a very dense series. It's a series that kind of requires a lot of foreknowledge. I think that's one of the reasons that the book itself is so maligned, is because it requires so much foreknowledge that a lot of people just miss all of that and take the commentary for text itself, and so that aspect of it goes over a lot of people's heads and kind of becomes alienating, where this is much more kind of mainstream in a way that Grant Morrison never is, without just doing a Scott Snyder stepping on the toes by retelling the whole thing, It's a fresh take on the origin, and I like that. It works. It's smart enough to do the Clay origin, and it's solid. I do quite like this. It's fun. It's a good time. All right. Well, if you're all done, then I think I'm all done. You want to go ahead and go on to ratings?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, really enjoyed this read. Some minor quibbles with it from the storytelling and the art point, but both were still done to a really good standard that, again, if you're a Wonder Woman fan or have any interest in the character, maybe you like the film, maybe just harder in DBDC or whatever, and you want to check it out, this would be a good starting point as any. I think this is a really strong way to get into specifically Diana's world and what makes the universe Wonder Woman brings of herself fun and exciting and important, and why characters like Etta Candy shouldn't be thrown aside to just focus on like the Greek stuff. Like, let's actually bring in the unique aspects that Marston created, because there's some gold there. So I will give this 4 out of 5 shaving cream, hair removal cream ads.
Yeah, it's not just shaving cream. It melts hair.
Yeah.
Which sounds exactly like the kind of product they would sell in the 40s. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I do think this is just a good time, a fun ride. I'll give this 4 out of 5. Holy shit, it's a Manhunter. So, yeah, let's stick with that. Alrighty. What are we talking about next time, Alfie? We need a discussion topic, sir.
Need a discussion topic. What can I do for a discussion? Okay, maybe I've talked about this one before, but I guess if you can remind me if I have. Superheroes in prose?
I don't think we've talked about that.
Have we?
I don't think so.
Okay, so like specifically talking about like, should that be done more? Are there pitfalls of that? Any characters you'd like to see? Any stuff you have read? Just specifically comic book characters or superhero stuff or superhero related things in the form of novels and books without those funny pictures from these artist boys and gals.
Yeah, sounds like a good time. Alright, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the champion, the oppressed.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.